Hey, welcome back to another video. I'm Shazev. I am a self-taught product designer and a community builder, and here on YouTube I make videos about design, productivity, and occasional lifestyle vlogs. In this video, I'm actually gonna share the entire video recording of an event I pioneered last week on a platform called ADPList. It's a platform where we make design mentorship accessible for everybody around the world, and there I am actually focusing my community efforts where I try to scale and educate the design or the emerging designers of my country. And last week we initiated the first ever exclusively Pakistani group session series on the platform. So I'm very excited to share this recording with you all, so that if you were not there live, then you at least can learn from the insights of that event. And without further ado, let's just jump into the video recording, and I'll see you there at ADPList. So the agenda for today's meeting is that we are going through the intro, and then right after this intro we'll be taking a picture because we all are fresh at the start of the session. And right after that photo, we will jump on to the awesome presentations which have been prepared by our speakers, and that will roughly take about 30 to 35 minutes, and then at the end we have an awesome 15 to 20 minutes dedicated to Q&A. So great to meet you all. We have these awesome speakers on stage with me. So first is Ahmed Khan. He is an ambassador with ADPList. He's from Lahore, and he's from the summer cohort. I'm Shazib Kazmi. I'm also an ambassador for ADPList, and I'm from Islamabad, but from a spring cohort. And our awesome speakers today include Hussein Diwani, who is a mentor at ADPList, and he's originally from Pakistan, but he is nowadays in Hong Kong, and he's working at Decathlon. Arif Kamal, he is a mentor as well. He's based in Karachi, and he's currently working at Pearls. And we have Arish Samad. He is also from Karachi, and he is from ALLift. So definitely very exciting lineup. To our first speaker, that is Hussein Diwani. So Hussein, the floor is yours. Please introduce yourself and go ahead with your session.
All right. Hey, everyone. Can you guys hear me correctly?
Yep.
All right, great. Awesome. Thank you. Hi, I'm Hussein Devani. As Shazib mentioned, I'm originally from Pakistan, currently based in Hong Kong. I'm a user experience lead at Decathlon in Hong Kong. By that, I actually worked on e-commerce websites, omnichannel commerce, for spatial design, for online purchases, etc. Previously, I was working and leading teams for startups, advertising agencies, and nonprofit. And I specialize in data-driven decisions and UX research and product improvement, and also more like a multi-channel experience. Before we begin, okay, hold on. I think the slides are not moving, Shazib.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So first of all, before we begin, we're talking about let's talk UX, right? I would really want to know for you, what is UX? Like, if you guys can just share that in the chat. What do you understand when we talk about UX or user experience? And yeah, no cheating, please. No Googling. Yeah. Human engineering or human GNGG. I'm not sure if I understand it correctly. Human engineering, yeah. Okay. Coming up with new features and testing them out. Human engineering, solving daily problems, behavior towards product and services. Yeah. What else do we understand by this? Behavioral study and making solutions, human psychology, meaningful experiences through design. Awesome. By people, of people, for people. That's pretty nicely put, yeah. And setting the things in proper way. Awesome. Great. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Yeah, all of you are correct. There are different interpretations of user experience. But let's take a look at what actually, it means, basically, what did Don Norman, the person we call it as like the father of user experience, mentions about it. So Don Norman calls it UX is all aspects of the end user interaction with the company, its service, and its products. Um, I think Shazab, you again lost me. Um, yeah,
Yep, we're on the first slide. What is UX? Okay, now there.
thank you. Yeah, so basically, yeah, what it actually means is that a combination of like service and products and like the end user interaction is exactly what user experience is all about. Um, when we also talk about user experience, we also think about some of the other things. I think, guys, you're not following me because I'm changing slides and I can't see anything.
I think what you can do is lights.
I
So
can,
I think this is a
I
recurring
can,
thing.
I can share.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yep, great. Thanks. So user experience is a commitment in developing products and services with purchase, compassion, and integrity. But at the same time, when we talk about user experience, it's more about developing the relation with your user, understanding their problems, while also making sure that you have the full resources to be more feasible and viable for them, which means that you have the technology which can help you out in order to build the product. But at the same time, is that product financially sustainable for the business? Yes or no? And then you build the product. So that's what actually user experience means. In user experience, we talk about four key pillars. One is user research. The other one is research analysis. Um, and then after that, we have scope and execution. So what does actually research mean? So it's not just primary research or secondary research, but actually we have some other things like competitor research where we try to analyze what are the industry standards and what are the other people in the industry are doing about it. And then the next part is the research analysis, where we try to learn from the user. What do they think? What do they feel? What are the pain points for them? And using those understanding, we actually create insights and findings out of it. So what is the difference between a research and an insight finding? A research definitely is something that you have conducted and it's in a raw format, and making it useful for your business. It's what we call it as insights and findings. And then putting it on on the canvas, which can definitely define the experience for a user. That's what we call experience mapping or customer journey mapping. And then the next one we have scope, which is around the idea of ideation, which is coming up with different ways of solving that problem and brainstorming different ideas and picking the ideas which are the most relevant in terms of implementation. And then we come towards the point of prototyping and testing out that and iterating if the solution needs more improvements. The last part is execution, which is crucial because when we, as a UX designer, you can of course come up with multiple ideas, but how do you implement those ideas? How are you working on the stakeholder management? How are you collaborating with different people, with developers, with data scientists, and the business teams? That is also very relevant. And these are the people who will help you put your ideas to life. Yep. And then the last part that we talk about in in user experience is basically the common job titles. So a lot of people have different understanding about user job titles, and there are a lot of fancy names out there in the industry that you might come across. And the most common ones which you will see is a UX designer and motion designer, engineers, UI designers, researchers, interaction and designers, and information architects. So these are some of the most common ones that you would see. Right now, if you are looking for particularly roles regarding UX, these are some of the keywords that you can definitely use on LinkedIn or on some other job platforms where you can search for jobs. And attached to that, there are different understandings. So for a UX designer, they would be talking more about functional part, the experiences and stuff like that. UI would be more UI, or interaction designers would and even like motion designers would be working on the visual side of it. Researchers, as you can tell, like, are working on like getting that insight from the users, like understanding their pain points. And information architects are the ones who are going to put the right things in the right boxes for you. And the last is the UX engineers, which is a combination of development and design at the same time. Then we have like UX and customer experience and service design. So for you, so this is basically like the golden circle that we call it, right? So at the center we see user experience, where you understand the user and like you do everything to make sure that like the idea is like that you're coming up with, like it fits the user needs. It actually tells like what kind of pain points the user has, and then you have the fulfillment for that. Customer experience, on the other hand, as we can see, like it is more about implementation and management of interaction across the customer journey. But at the same time, you try to like make sure that the user is going back with a positive feedback. And the last one, which we call it as a service design, is a systems approach. So which is basically more about what is happening at the front and behind the scenes. So as you might, if you guys have dived into the field of like technology, you might know, like when we talk about development, we have front-end development and back-end development. So front-end is what is the user-facing side, but at the same time, like there are some things which are happening behind the scenes, which are the back-end side. So service design, in the same manner, talks about what is happening in front of the user and what do we have to do in terms of processes at the back in order to make sure that this system is like smoothly being implemented. At the same time, is covering all the user satisfaction points. Yep. And then we come toward the part of like transitioning into UX. That is my favorite topic because I myself have transitioned into user experience. So prior to being a UX lead, I used to be a filmmaker. That was my story in Pakistan. So in Pakistan, I used to be a documentary filmmaker. And for me, it was really interesting to like, learn the craft. So what I was doing at that time was working on storytelling, and that's what I wanted to do, and that was what I was passionate about. But at the same time, I wanted to see where I can make direct impact. So I was curious to learn more and like getting to understand the user needs and telling the right story and like solving the problems at the same time and making it impactful. So for me, like I feel like for a lot of people who are into their career, like they're thinking like, oh, it might be very late for me to switch. I'm telling you, like it's never too late to switch. It's basically like never too late to transition. If there's something that you can like find your passion in or like truly believe in, I think definitely go for that. Try to see what are the things that like like wakes you up in the morning, right? Like makes you leave your bed, or like makes you passionate about what you're doing, or like something that you can keep doing and never get tired. So I think for me, like that actually where UX came into place, and I got like super passionate about user experience, and I transitioned to UX. And in order to do that, it's definitely a journey, it's a process, and it is not a overnight thing, right? Like you need to put in some effort into that. So the first part which we talk about is learn the craft. So it would not happen like definitely like some people are self-taught learners, and like they can definitely go on like YouTube, some free resources, and like they can definitely learn that. But find where you can learn it. Like what is the most efficient way for you to learn? So the most common ones would be like going to the boot camps, online courses, formal education, real projects. For me, I did one online course. Honestly, I did not do like a lot of online courses. I did one online course through Acumen Foundation and IDEO. So IDEO is like one of the pioneers of event-centered design, and like they talk like about serving the people, creating service design. So for me, like that was one online course which actually turned the wheel around for me. And yeah, and then I started doing more real projects, so collaborating with people like my friends, and like helping them out with the startups. Sometimes you even have to do the job for no money, like as a pro bono, as a volunteer. But this is all a learning curve, right? Like this is your investment into learning and getting a real project. Then the next part, which is create a portfolio. So create a focus, then you have the 4-step process: the problem, process, product, and results. So try to understand what is the problem that you're working on. So when you create a focus on a problem, for example, what do you see around you, or what, as a user, what kind of things do you notice? Try to identify a problem. And then secondly, you can create a process. So that process could be conducting a research, empathizing with the user, understanding it, ideating the solutions, and then you actually build a product. So that's where then you start to see results into place. Then you see, what have I learned from that? Definitely, for me, the first product that I built never created any good result. It was actually a process where you build things, you fail, you learn, and then you move forward and you try to make things work around. And the last one is leverage your current career. Whatever you're doing right now as a teacher, I don't know, as a filmmaker. For me, it was a filmmaker. So for me, it was more about staying at the core of storytelling and telling people stories. So understanding what is your current career and what can you take away from that, and using that, and then you pick industry specific projects. So for example, if you're a teacher, try to see what is there in the edtech industry. Well, how can you make it better? For example, if you're interested into Khan Academy or Udemy or edX or Coursera, what as a user would you want to improve in that? Or as a teacher, right? As a teacher, how can you improve or enhance a teaching experience, or from a university point of view, right? The next one is internal transfer. So whichever company you're working at, see if they're, how would you want to transfer? Talk to your managers. Is there anything that you can help with? And the last one is UX roles within the sector. So maybe in your own company, there might not be any active role, but on a parallel, you might see some other company which are working the same sector as you. They have any open role. So try to see and try to find your fit there. So yeah, for me, these are 3 key things into transitioning into UX. And definitely it's a process and it might not happen overnight, but once you take a leap, take a step forward, get your foot in the door, and that's where you start building things around. Yeah, that's it for me. Yeah. And then I'll move on to Arif Samad. Arif, I think you're mute.
Hello. So Hussein, you are controlling the slides, or may I share my slide?
I can do it for you.
Okay. Thank you so much. So hello, how are you all? Arif Samad here. I am working as a product designer in the Lift Technologies, and the fun fact is this: for the last 2 years, I am the only single designer in the Lift Technologies who is managing 8 different products, 8 different heads in the same company, including consumer apps, including mobiles, websites, internal apps, back office, etc. And at the same, like Hussein shared his experience, I can in the user experience industry from the background of graphic designing back in 2001. In 2004, I became as a web designer, because at that time web designer was a very, you can say, web designer job was really hot in the market in the Pakistan. Then moving towards after the era of Web 2.0, I transitioned myself to UX designer, and now I'm working as a product designer. I work for a several different SaaS projects. I am, you can say, specialized in ride-hailing applications, to design experience of ride-hailing application in the warehouse apps, including 3PL, Next, Trackify, and other applications. So we are moving towards our next agenda, as Hussein very deeply shared about what is the user experience and how we can what is the actual user experience and how you can start your career. So now we will know how user experience will help us and what it can do for us. So let's start user experience cuts our you can say a development cost. Our designers our before UX designers spends hours and redesigning and posting on the polishing the apps to meet the needs of the user. So how it help us to cut down the cost by two things. One is the prototype, and the second is usability testing. How it help us from the prototyping, like before going to the development, we test our ideas, we test our ideas in estimating our more accurately, we avoid our feature creep and test our application with the real users, either our proposed solution is working with the user or not, or user are using it with ease or not. And the second is usability testing helps user designers to make sure that the app is convenient and easy to use. So we can check the various elements of during the testing, the size of the buttons, and easy to navigation, fonts, and etc. So it cuts out the development cost. It reduces our development cost before we push it to the development phase. So secondly, it increased our the revenue, but how the UX design proved that love at first sight really exists. A full 75% of people judge a website based on the overall aesthetics, a user-friendly interface, and fulfill a customer needs is more likely convert the customer. So how it increase our revenue by ease of use, reduce the clicks, as much as we give the leverage to the user to interact with the website, it will be the very enjoyable and joyful for them for the journey to visit our website or the apps. And the clear CTA, like if we are going to design login button, so the login button should be very clear, and if you are going to redirect them to somewhere like to register yourself or the forgot password, so that kind of CTA should be very clear and easy to readable. In the second, it helps us to increase user experience, help to increase our customer loyalty. Customer loyalty always one through the positive experience. One of the approach, building the customer loyalty is creating a customer journey map. UX designers create the journey map to represent the customer's interaction with the product, starting from the very first contact, can help you to increase the loyalty of the visitors by helping them build empathy. Empathy, how empathy will help or increase the customer loyalty is empathy is understanding needs of the target of the audience. A well-crafted customer journey map reveals the emotional stage of your user in different stages of their journey. I didn't how it increase our customer loyalty by you can say identify the bottlenecks when a user focus on issue when a user focus on an issue while trying to perform an action. For example, the website or the app doesn't accept any kind of you can say credit card or the checkout process, find a unnecessary element like the menu is hidden, so these interaction can turn them away from the website. So user experience help us in our ideation in a prototyping phase will help us to eliminate these kind of bottlenecks and increase in the retention rate. Retention rate is especially important for the e-commerce that allow the UX designer to track their activity, to track their customer interaction with the content, determine the customer satisfaction ratings, gather usability scores. UX designer, the insight that they need to optimize their, I can say, design to better engage visitor and win their loyalty. And the second is motivate your user to interact with your content. How it help us, or you can say how it user experience help us to motivate with the content. The first of all, when designing the app, UX designer meticulously create a user personas or description of the people who will the potential target audience of that particular app or the particular website. The user persona look like you can see you like a simple profile of the real people and include the personal information, biographics, and the motivation of the user to use the app, why they want to use the app. User personas allow the user UX designer to get a better feel for their target audience, so it helps to it so you can say so it helps them to motivate to use that app again and again. And in modern and now I can say in the modern UX design, focus in the personalization user experience, like most of the you guys have seen already seen in many e-commerce websites there. You like to get personalized greetings, like Facebook uses, Instagram uses, and other e-commerce website uses personalized greeting in their app. When you are using app in the morning, so they say the good morning, and when you are using the app in the night, the app will send you a message that, hey, Arif, good evening, how we can help you out. So these all kind of personalization motivates the user to use your app and engage them to experience your application and website. So the last one is keep you away from how UX help us to keep you away from you can say wasting the resources. When employer are not managed well, the result can be financial losses. An example of such misuse of resources of hiring marketing and the sales manager to promote a product without investing in the user experience that delight the user. Time is also valuable resources that directly impact the financial side of the project. So user experience will help you to use your resources wisely in their respective areas. As user experience research help you to detect the inefficient solution and prevent the implementation at the development stage by tailoring any feature to meet the needs of the users target audience. Marketers and analysts can try their best to predict the behavior of the users, but it is not possible to predict what your user want with the 100% certainty. Designing and capturing the UI and user experience to the difficult task. So, Hossein, can you move to the next slide? Okay. So these now let me we see we will identify the few different you can say examples from the digital product or the user experience, like simplicity. User experience, your app should be very simple, clear, and precise. In the design should be very clear, and information will be precise. Like you can see I have seen shown the example of the Sadape. Their home screen is very clear to the point. It's a greeting message. Hello Aisha. They are showing the transition and very simple and easy to use. The second example we can take from you can say Starbucks. They personalize their screen. They shown the past purchases and the previous purchases, and you can the user can easily if they want to reorder the same thing, so you can easily reorder. You can easily reorder the particular product from their personalized from their previous purchase tabs. The second is the user wants the tracking of their order in the most e-commerce application and the ride hailing and the food delivery services. We most of the time see most of the user are not aware about their delivery and the product. So user wants the tracking of their order in the e-commerce. So tracking will help you user to identify and to notify them where your order is right now. Like in the airlift, we are following the 3-step process to deliver the product. Once the order is confirmed, the second order is in the packing phase, and the third in the order in the delivery phase. So we always identify the user where your product is right now. So these are the few examples from the digital product design where the UX helps your user to engage, to motivate to use your application again and again. Okay, so the next topic would be, is UX is a good fit for you? So I personally feel that this question, you guys can very easily answer the question you are guys ask from yourself. Is really good fit for you? If yes, the UX design may be very good for you if you are very creative and analytical. There are not too many jobs out there that combine both the creativity and analytical thinking. If you want to be a career that incorporate both, UX design and is the ideal meeting point. And the second, essentially, yes, this is a might seem like no barrier, but it's worth knowing that the UX designer tends to be well paid. There is for course variation depending on where you are working, what company you are working for, or what are you working in the junior, mid level, or a senior level. But very decent salary you can get by become a user experience designer. And the second is the job security. We all face these issues in our early days, in the mid days, but now the things are very changing rapidly, especially in the Pakistan. Most of the investors are investing in Pakistan for digital product development. Most of the startups are now ensuring that the job security in you can say in different sectors, but especially in the user experience design. A survey carried by the Adobe, globally, the survey carried by the Adobe, 87% of the managers said that hiring more UX designer is the top priority of the organization. Why? Because they know the user experience, the UX design is the only way to sustain, to survive, or only way to get the succeed of the, to get the achieve the target of the goal of the product is to better user experience, is the better user experience. And the third and the fourth one is the branch out. What it means is that user experience is the only field where is within the UX design umbrella. There are so much you can do, from, you can say, from video game to mobile apps, from the virtual reality to the voice design. There are countless paths you can end up to. UX designer are expected to have specialized knowledge in the areas such as voice design, user research, front-end development, UX writing, UI interaction design, etc. So if you don't want to be tied to the to set of one field, and you like the idea of branching out, a career in the UX design is a full of the opportunity. And the second one, the fifth one is the going freelancing, which is a very favorite topic for all of the all of our designers, because we want to earn more and more. So here's a good news for you guys. So if you are dream of working for yourself, or even working remotely and becoming a so-called digital name, so UX design is one career where you where this is not only completely possible but also fairly common. So UX design or UI design, interaction design, or as a UX researcher, you can freely working as a freelancer. Nowadays, the remote working is very common in all over the world. So UX, I personally feel that being a UX designer is the only field in the design industry other than the graphic design. You can work remotely, you can work as a work as a freelancer, and you can earn very decent amount by freelancing your UX expertise, especially in UX researching or usability testing. So you can earn a very decent amount. And the second and the last one is make a difference. So if you as a UX designer, you will be doing a meaningful work. How? Well, you are shaping the world around you and influencing and improving how people experience it. Not only that, design has a direct impact on the business outcome with With the design data-driven companies outperforming their competitors by up to 200 plus percentage, UX designer have more power to create the world works better for you, the user, the full of spectrum of humanity. Being a UX designer, you are free to give your ideas. You have a very freedom to share your ideas, your thoughts. You are free to test your ideas with the user. You are free to test your user journey with the user to validate your ideas. Now, being a UX designer, if you want to be a great designer, there are three different kind of skill set you have. Encompasses the variety of variety of, we can see, as soft skills, industry skills, and the crossover skills. The soft skills means you must be a very good very good communicator, along with the empathy, curiosity, and the critical thinking. Because when you go when you put yourself, or when you arrange empathy session, understanding session, or testing session with the user, so you have to be very empathized about the user. You have to be very good communicator at that time. And the second, the industry skills, you can say, learning user is how to do user research, UX writing, wireframing, prototyping, and the different tools like Figma, or you can say any other tool, XD. So these are your industry skill set, will help you to get a better user experience design. And the last one is the crossover skills. Will take you to, these skills will take time to learn, but if you keep an open and curious to mind a very kind of work you do, it makes the development easier. Like, the thing you are designing, or or the solution you are proposing to your team, it is easily convertible, and it is easily, you can say, adjust in your current product tech stack. So it can be, I can say, customer service. You learn some kind of coding, backend coding, like you can front end coding like HTML, CSS, and the web development, some basics. So it helps you to stand out in the crowd, and all the three skill sets will make you the best UX designer in the town, in your company, and in your industry. So that's all from my side. So over to you, Arif.
Hello guys. Ahmed, are you taking over?
Yep. Sanjay, you can unshare the screen and I'll share mine.
Okay, so as the screen comes up, let me introduce myself. My name is Arif Kamal. I'm more commonly known as Arif Kamal Zedi. Uh, I've been in the industry for like 25 years or so. This is my 26th year in the industry. Been a very, you can say, old fellow in the industry. Joined it very young. My claim to fame has been that I've almost lived up to all the spectrums in the graphic design field. I've headed and worked in almost all streams, because when we were young, we joined the industry. There weren't many companies, there weren't many roles. Usually, people with a single title used to do different roles as graphic designers, web designers, RF already mentioned. So it was a learning opportunity. So I've been very blessed in terms of working with very big names and leading teams of them, eventually building very big teams. So I've transitioned into more management side of things, and have had the pleasure of building some really large teams and pretty big names in the industry. So moving on, I'll be sharing some details about the landscape of the industry, how it is, what sort of jobs you can get, what sort of salaries you can expect, what are the industry types, and what should you be doing in order to perform well in the UX industry within Pakistan. So we'll be looking at job prospects. I've prepared two graphs for you. to view. These will be roughly going over the industry stats. Both of these are based on 3 surveys we did for different companies. And these surveys are obviously, they do not represent the 100% accurate picture, because in Pakistan, most of the companies, the smaller companies, are not registered with any bodies, and people freelancing or working in smaller groups are not accounted for. So this might have like 10-20% deviation, but these are the stats. So since the UX industry is evolving in Pakistan, it's not completely evolved yet. So I would say that there's a lot of confusion in terms of the roles or the designation of the titles that we have. So for most of the data that we collected recently, we came across 5 roles. The highest used role within Pakistan is something related to UX engineering, which is our HTML, CSS friends who develop UIs that we build. Most of the jobs within Pakistan lie in the services and something called online design. I'll explain it a little bit later in the next few slides. So most of the jobs, which is around like 36%, lie in that spectrum, which includes some sort of development or some sort of work linked to development. There are certain companies which still hire people who do design and development both. Sadly, they have a very weird title, which is very debatable. UI, UX designer, or UX UI designer, or UX UI developer. So those sort of people are like around 18%-ish. And mostly those people work on the entire cycle. They do wireframe, they do prototype, they do design, they do the HTML, CSS, and mostly they're found in smaller companies or very large companies which are like product related. Both of them are blue because they include some sort of development work. I've color coded them. The third kind, which is one of the very popular JDs or titles in the industry, is our UI UX designer or UX UI designer. Some companies have started calling them visual designers because most of them are not involved in research. They're more involved in the ideation phase. So what they basically do is they're involved in like either a discovery workshop, they do wireframe, they do prototype, UI design, and then eventually do some sort of a handoff either with Zeppelin or with any other tool, sometimes manually. So this is another large chunk of percentage that you can look at in terms of job within the Pakistan industry. UX researchers, if we go like an year back, as Hussain Bhai was saying and as Arif was also saying, that the landscape of products has developed in the last couple of years a lot. 2020, 2021, the later parts of 2019 saw a very intense boom in terms of product companies. So this number was fairly low, and a lot of people, when we were doing this research, came across and said UX research is 4%. That means that this is something that which is not growing or probably not considered as a top career option. But this number has soared in the last couple of years very quickly. And currently, because the survey is was done somewhere between 2020, a recent survey is in progress. We are working towards it. This number has grown towards like 12ish to 13ish. So it's seen like more than 200% growth. But the data is not compiled yet, so I cannot share that with you at this point. But this area is continuously improving as a job prospect. So for all the researchers out there, keep your hopes up. And last but not the least, as Arif already said, and Chen Bhai and all other people have already mentioned, product design scenario is improving, and so is the product designer job. There are a lot of positions open in terms of product design. A lot of companies are hiring product designers at good scale, and usually a product designer is involved in some sort of research. They do definitely do the ideation phase and the execution phase, and they are sometimes involved in testing as well. So I've already shed like some decent light on that one. So can we move on to the next slide? So previously we were discussing the title-wise or job-wise prospects. Now we're looking at the picture in terms of the industry-wide scenario. So primarily Pakistan has Pakistan or India, rather than we both are really close markets. So we have three type of you can say breakdowns within the industry. One being the online design industry, which is like growing leaps and bounds in terms of numbers, in terms of job prospects, as well as in terms of sales, in terms of companies starting and opportunities on all scenarios. So online design, freelance, small agencies basically make up around like 60-62% of the industry within Pakistan. Again, these stats were compiled somewhere in 2020. The number might be like 10-20% off. Salary in these sort of ranges between like, because these guys hire very fresh people or very young people, so they don't tend to give a very good initial salary, but as soon as you pick up pace, you spend like 6 to 8 months, in a year, or probably 1.5 years, because all the companies offer increment twice a year. So this number like shifts really quickly. So usually starting salary in online design companies and other companies is fairly small. It starts from like 15-20,000 rupees, and as you grow, the number goes really high to like 500,000, 400,000, which includes usually very decent perks in terms of like the company maintained cars and like insurances and other stuff. So online design again makes up the larger part of the industry. The second largest part is obviously our software houses. We have seen companies that do different type of sales. Even in the big companies, we have like sub brand which sell like online design, like package-based design. So the area is a little gray, but primarily the second largest is our software houses, which the software company that we have, the bigger names like, for example, Temple, Fully Free, Systems Limited, Avanza, and people like that. These guys make up the center half. This is around like 30%. These guys usually hire visual designers and people who can do some sort of research, people who can conduct discovery workshops. So to work in these sort of companies, you need to know a good set of skills from the UX umbrella to be able to work with them. Again, because these companies are a little bit bigger than the online agencies or online design agencies, so these guys pay up a really decent salary at starting point. From like fresh graduates coming out, you can expect a salary of like 35, 40,000, 45,000 starting point. And then the highest numbers can be debatable, because there are like 12, 13 positions and the average is not good. But I've seen people earning decent salary up to 600, 700 Ks on average nowadays, because again, these companies have like grown tremendously during COVID, and like at the end of 2020 they saw like intense growth. So the third part is obviously products. Product companies are evolving again. The number currently that we see in the research that we guys are doing is a little bit higher than this. Product companies at now round about make up around like 7 to 8%. Again, because product is a sensitive part and the designer is a very essential part of the life cycle, so the salaries are a little bit higher. Young talent is given more opportunity because people are coming from well-rounded, well-versed background. The universities are teaching decent programs, especially in Lahore and Islamabad, Karachi as well, but the landscape of Lahore and Islamabad is a little bit bigger. And again, the salaries, because usually at times you are paid in USD or like pounds, depending on the native region of the company. So the amounts go a lot higher than what you would be getting at a higher management position within a SaaS company or an online design company. So as I said, the product is growing. It's like around about 7%. Was like around about 7% at the mid of like 2020, where it's growing at an extremely quick pace. A lot of companies are coming in. A lot of companies are securing investments. A lot of companies are making really decent products. I believe like a couple of people were here in the audience who are working for really decent companies and leading decent teams in the company. So please move on. UX as an industry, as I already shared, that it has like 3 different type of companies. The purpose of this slide is to, for all the people who are looking to for a job, you have to prepare differently for a different sort of company. I'll be really quick in examples. For example, if you work aiming to work for an online design company or an agency which is based off freelance models, you have to have a very good visual design portfolio. You need to have good, decent visual design skills. If you're working for a SaaS based or software company, you have to have good visual design skills, but you need to have like intense communication skills, because usually you are directly communicating with the client. So you have to have like really good verbal communication skills. You have to have very good English communication skills to talk to clients. So that is a very important scenario. In terms of product, product is very dependent on what region it's based in. For example, you might be sitting in Pakistan or working for a product that is either based in US. So again, communication skills are there, but again, for being a product designer, you have to be really well versed in terms of the entire umbrella of UX design, from like prototyping, from researching, from gathering specifics, as Hussein mentioned. You have to be really, really, really well versed to secure a good position and then progress into your career. So next slide, please. So how to succeed? 5 really, really simple points. Understand the industry and prepare your portfolio accordingly. If you are aiming for an online design company, you would have to have a really nice finished portfolio of visual design. If you're aiming for a product company, you have to have like really decent case studies. If you're aiming for someone like a SaaS company, you have to have a really decent mix of both. Uh, Again, whatever company you're aiming for, you have to share your process, how you work, because in an interview, a lot of people are not interested in what you finished, because usually people do not people who are working in teams use work that is not entirely their own. So sharing a process makes the interviewer very comfortable, like how you work, would you fit into the pipeline of the company or not. So that those sort of things are very, very important. So share your process. A decent project should have a problem statement, proposed solution, journey towards solving the problem, and the final results. I've seen a lot of portfolios. I do a lot of hiring. I've been blessed with building teams of more than 100, 200, 300 designers at some point in my life. So I've seen a lot of people. People usually define a problem statement. People define the journey. By journey, I means like you showcase wireframe, you showcase visual designs. A lot of people do not share their proposed solution and the final results, that the impact that their solution made. So try and think of what sort of impact your designs made, what sort of value you added in terms of revenue, if possible, or ROI, or in any other manner, so that that impact can be shown. The fourth one is that prepare a portfolio of at least 2 to 3 projects, which I like to call well-defined projects, which has like all the 4 areas that we're talking about. Focus on quality, not on quantity. When you are giving an interview doesn't have that the liberty of time that he would review your entire like 50 project portfolio. So usually 3 or 4 or 5 maximum, that's a decent number. But if you have like 3 projects, that's enough to show variety and show your process. And the last one, that's a little bit of a cheating part, but it has to be said out loud. In portfolios, usually there's something called aesthetic usability effect, which means the prettier the things look, you usually supersede solutions that you actually did. So try and make your portfolio pretty. I'm not in favor of like a lot of dribblification of designs, like make them too pretty to implement, but make it as dribbly as possible. But do think of execution somewhere in the middle. And there's a little point written below, which I like to emphasize on, that good communication skills are mandatory to have for any type of designer, whether it's a UX designer or a visual designer or whatever type of, because you are communicating with people on regular basis, and in majority of companies or majority of roles, you are the underdog, so you have to communicate really well with the teams to make your presence felt, to show the value that you are going to bring to the table. And again, because we are in a world which is driven by outsourced work, so again, verbal English speaking skills are like uh, can exponentially boost your career. So focus on learning English, focus on improving your communication, focus on trying to present things in a positive way, so that people can love you and like to want to be a part of you, want to be like a part of the team that you're in. So that's very important. Ahmed? Thank you guys. I think Ahmed, you're on mute.
Yep. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, just give me a second. Okay, so can you guys view the slides again? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see the slides.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we'll be moving towards the last segments of our session, and I'd like to thank our speakers for taking out the time and the effort that they've put in into the session, and also the attendees for making their first Pakistani ADPList session such a success. And now I'm just like gonna give you guys about 20 to 25 seconds if you guys want to take a screenshot of this page. So even if you missed out on some part of the session, or maybe you just got disconnected in between, so you can just like take a screenshot of this slide to catch up with the major takeaways and tips from our speakers. So I'll just.
Wow, that was an amazing session. I truly hope that you learned something from this video, and now you are better prepared for your career trajectory. Maybe you learned something general about UX or about the Pakistani design landscape and its employability. So that would be all for this video. If you like this, then give me a subscribe maybe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.